Good afternoon, everybody. This is Robert at Scott Leroy Marketing. We'll get started with our Placester 101 class here in just a second. Before we get started, a couple of prerequisites to get out of the way. Wow, I sounded like a Porky Pig there. This class is recorded. It should be available hopefully in just a couple of hours, if not at the latest tomorrow, at slmtraining.com. That's S as in Scott, L as in Leroy, M as in Marketing, training.com. That's the same as every other Placester 101 class and even our previous Placester 201 classes. Those are recorded and they're all available there at slmtraining.com. If you're having trouble hearing on the computer or you'd rather just listen in on your phone, there is a call-in number. It's been through on the slideshow there a couple of times, but I just sent you that number in the chat window. Speaking of the chat window, if you'll look up near the top of your screen, you should have these same 5 buttons that I do. If you'll click this one that's just to the left of center here that looks like a speech bubble, that'll open up the chat window here. This is where I'm going to be sending you guys a couple of tips and links as we go through the class. It's also where I'm going to be monitoring for questions. So if you guys have any questions as we go on, anything that's unclear or I didn't cover or accidentally skipped or something like that, definitely let me know there in the chat window because I will be monitoring that during the class here. One more prerequisite here is that, excuse me, as we're getting started, make sure that you're using any browser besides Microsoft Internet Explorer. That browser was retired almost 4 years ago now. It was summer of 2015, I believe. And what was I saying there? So it's no longer supported by many websites, including Placester. So you'll want to upgrade to a more modern browser, such as Google Chrome or Mozilla Firefox. Now, if you're using Windows 10, the new browser that's installed there is Edge by Microsoft, and that one works just fine. That's not Internet Explorer. That's a newer one, and you can use that one just fine. I actually need to update that slide there. Placester has actually had issues with a number of browsers ever since KW International changed the single sign-on system back on September 7th. So every once in a while, what may happen as we're going through the class here is that when you try to access the Placester interface, it may ask you for login information. Unfortunately, there is no login information for Placester. So you would actually need to go through some settings to enable what's called cookies to go through to the Placester system. And I just sent you guys the link with click-by-click instructions for that there as well. And then lastly, this class is 100% follow along. You're going to be doing what I do. You're going to click what I click. I'm going to show you right on the screen exactly everything that needs to happen for your site to get launched. And you're welcome to ask questions as we go, but if I move a little bit quickly for you, that's why we record this. So you can refer back to it at slmtraining.com and you can go through at your own pace. If I'm moving maybe a little quickly, you can pause the video, do the action on your end, and then start the video again, and so on and so forth. Okay, let's get started here. I'm going to minimize my slideshow here. Our first step to accessing the Placester site is to get logged into mykw.kw.com. The way to access your site is not by logging into the homepage of your site, nor is it through Placester.com because there is, like I said, no login information for Placester. Instead, your site is accessed through mykw.kw.com. So if you're not there already, go ahead and get to your MyKW homepage. Once you're on that homepage, up in that very top black menu, you'll hover over Technology. Then we'll click on the third one down here, which is KW Websites. On this page, it'll say Your KW Agent Website, and right in the middle, there should be a red button that says Go to My Website. If this button is not here, instead what'll be here is some instructions for how to activate this site. There are 2 requirements for this site to become available on your account. One is that your @kw.com email address has to exist. You don't ever have to use it if you don't want to, but it has to exist. And then the other is that your MLS ID needs to be added to your KW White Pages profile. That's the more common thing that prevents this button from being on this page. Now, unfortunately, if this button isn't here right now, unfortunately, there's not anything that can be done about it during the time of this class because A, this is not something that you can do yourself. It has to be done by your Market Center administrator. They're the only ones who have the ability to do that. That's the person at your Market Center who is responsible for getting commission checks to agents. So you would want to contact them, have them add your MLS ID to the white pages. And then the other thing is once the MLS ID gets added to the white pages, there's a delay of roughly 24 to 48 hours between when it's added and when this button shows up here for you to click. So if you don't have this button, you're welcome to watch along and take notes, and that way you know what to do by the time the site does become available, or you can refer back to the recording once the site is available. So we're going to click on our Go to My Website button here, and it does take a minute to load here. But where it's going to take us is the Placester dashboard. You should see very similar things to what I'm seeing here. If you'll look up near the top here, you'll probably see some tiles here, something about almost there or progress or a percentage. I don't remember exactly what it looks like. It's been a long time since I saw it. You can actually ignore those tiles. We're going to be taking care of most of the things up there, and anything we don't take care of today is covered in Placester 201, so you can refer back to that. And it's also going to be optional, anything we don't take care of today. Now, one thing I want to point out about Placester 201 is that we've received news from KW International that there is going to be a new website that's coming out in sometime eventually. We're not sure when. They said later this year, but you never know. So eventually there is going to be another website. So for the time being, we're only going to be covering Placester 101 moving forward. And instead, on the second Wednesday of the month, we're going to be switching it up and having KW Connect overview there. Then on the third Wednesday, we'll have the Kelly overview. And then on the fourth Wednesday, we'll have referrals, groups, and chat in KW Command. And that's that second Wednesday is being replaced from the Placester 201. So if you need that information about the more advanced stuff, definitely, again, refer back to Placester 201 at slmtraining.com. And I don't imagine that it's going to change very much from the last time we did the class, which was less than a month ago, to when the new site comes out, whenever that is. So where was I? So from our dashboard here, the very first thing we want to do is over on the left, you should have the option here for preview site and launch site. If you don't have launch site, instead it's going to say view live site. So you actually don't need to perform this step. But if you do have the launch site link here, just click on that link. That's all it takes to launch your site. Really easy, one click. And it'll take us over here to the list of our sites. So if your site was already launched and you don't know what this page is, the way to get here is up at the top right, you'll click on this grid of 9 squares. And when it drops down, we are on the sites page. That's what this is right here. It's a list of all the sites you have in your Placester account. Now, you should have just one site. There's only one site that's available for free through your subscription through KW. If you do have additional sites, it's usually from one of 3 circumstances. One is you're potentially a member of either the commercial, farm and ranch, commercial or farm and ranch divisions of KW International. You do get an additional site for each one of those divisions. So like Scott here has the commercial site, that means he's a member of commercial in KW. Same for farm and ranch. Now, you used to get an additional site if you were a member of the luxury division as well, but luxury homes are still homes. They're still residential properties. So what Placester changed that to is in the residential site, you get a new theme specific to luxury. So if you're a member of luxury, you can choose that theme. If you're a member of any of those divisions and you don't have those options, definitely reach out directly to Placester at support@placester.com. Super easy. So here from this list, the second reason you might have an additional site here, which is the least common kind, is that sometimes the Placester system, for whatever reason that we can't figure out, decides, hey, we're going to issue you 2 free sites. And, you know, kudos to you if you end up with one of those. You're welcome to use both if you want to. But in most cases, it's actually going to be this third circumstance, which is somehow you accidentally clicked on this plus sign up here and you created another site within your account at some point. So unfortunately, if that has happened, only one of the sites that you have listed here can be launched or live at a time. If you try to launch any of the additional sites, it's going to ask you for a payment method because you are, like I said, only allowed one site. So if you do have additional sites here and you're not a member of one of those divisions and you're not able to launch it, I'd recommend just deleting that site just to remove any confusion. So what we're going to do from this page is we'll click on Edit Site here to go into the settings for this site. We're going to stay here on the site settings page for the remainder of our Placester 101 class. That's the page that we're on currently. If I click on this, nothing happens because we are already on this page. This is where we're spending all of our time today. So if you want to learn about pages and blog posts and testimonials and areas, that's something for Placester 201. Definitely refer back to that at slmtraining.com. Starting at the top here for listings, we've got IDX integration. If we'll click that open, IDX stands for Internet Data Exchange. That's the system that connects excuse me, your MLS to your site so that listing data can be shown on your site. Without IDX, your site is essentially useless because there are two functions that a real estate website is supposed to perform. One is providing listing search for visitors, and then two is collecting leads. Without IDX, it can't perform that first function, so the site is essentially useless. So if you want more information about how to set up IDX, excuse me, I just sent you a link there for some basic information about that. And we'll cover more in a little bit of detail as we move forward here. So theoretically, there should be max 2 or 3 things listed on this page, but Scott is kind of crazy here, so we'll have to play with what we've got. But by default, what should be selected, what should be on over here on the right is the Keller Williams listing service, and that is going to be just KW listings. No listings outside of your company are going to be able to be searched for on your site. No Remax, no CryLike, no Coldwell Banker, nothing else, only KW listings. So instead, what we want to do is switch off the Keller Williams listing service and switch on, you want to make sure it's blue for on, your actual local MLS. Now, if your local MLS isn't listed here, that means there needs to be a request sent to have that IDX connection set up for your site. That process looks a little different for each and every market center and each and every board. Most of the time, there's some paperwork that needs to be submitted that your MLS can provide to you or has already provided to your market center. In the vast majority of cases, your market center should have whatever paperwork is necessary or whatever else is necessary on hand there at the market center to submit the request for this IDX connection. So you'll want to talk to your market center leadership for help getting this IDX connection set up. Now, if your IDX, if your local board is listed here, but over on the right it says pending or provisional, either one of those words rather than the switch here, that is something that you're actually going to need to reach out to Placester directly for. And I'm sending you guys the email address directly for the Placester IDX team. That's dataops@placester.com. So D as in dog, A, T as in Tom, A, O, P as in Paul, S as in Sam, @placester.com. And that is pronounced Placester. It's not Placesetter, it's not Placester, it's not Placaster, Placester. Really easy. Anyway, so once you've got your local MLS turned on, you want to make sure to click the Save button down here at the bottom. And that green Save button is going to be on everything that we do here. If you don't click that Save button, whatever changes you just made, if you exit out of it, are lost. So you would actually need to come back into that section and redo whatever changes you made if you skipped that Save button. So always remember to scroll down to the bottom and click that green Save button. Dropping down underneath that, we have these two sections here called Global Filters and Featured Listings. Before we get into either one of those specifically, I want to tell you a little bit about the difference between them. Global Filters is choosing which listings can be found on your site. So theoretically, what you could potentially do in Global Filters, I don't recommend doing this. In fact, very strongly recommend just leaving Global Filters 100% totally, completely alone. But what you could theoretically do is go into Global Filters and say, I only want listings from this city, and this city to be able to be found on my site. If there's a listing that's covered by your MLS that is not in one of those 3 named cities, no one would be able to find it on your site. And you can see how that could be dangerous. Say you put in just one zip code, or you put in maybe your MLS ID, it would only show listings on your entire site from that one zip code, or just only your listings. No listings that you didn't already have would be able to be found on your site. So Global Filters is a little bit dangerous, and in most cases, I recommend just leaving it alone. There are some special cases where you might want to narrow that down a little further. Say your MLS covers a very large area, like I think the Georgia MLS does cover the entire state of Georgia. And I guess if you're licensed in Georgia, you could sell anywhere in Georgia, but what you might want to do in that case is go into Global Filters and just put in a handful, maybe 10 or 12 cities that you actually want to work in to show listings on your site, to narrow it down from 36,000 listings to 7,000 or 8,000 listings. And then under that, we've got featured listings. When people want to edit their website, most likely this is what they're coming for. They want to edit what shows on the home page. And this is where you choose that, which is right here in featured listings. Here you can get a lot more specific without pushing out other listings from being able to be found on your site. In featured listings, you can hand pick individual listings that you want to show on your homepage of your site. You can set specific criteria like price, beds and baths, square feet, zip code, a certain subdivision if you want to. You can even put in your MLS ID in this spot to show just your listings on the homepage. So we're just going to completely ignore global filters, leave that alone. If you do want more information about that, feel free to send us an email at support@scottleroymarketing.com. And instead, we're going to drop down here to featured listings and open that up. There are two tabs available in here. We've got filtered listings, which is the one that we recommend using. And then we've also got specific listings, which if you wanted to, you can come in and manually choose one by one the listings that you want to show on your homepage. The problem with specific listings is that you would need to every day, as things come on and off the market, come into your site and choose new listings to show on your homepage. It's not automatically going to bring in new listings that meet your criteria. What's with all these people requesting the presenter role? What was I saying there? So instead, what we recommend is filtered listings. So you can set some criteria here, and as new listings go on and off the market that meet your criteria, they'll automatically show on your homepage, and as they come off the market, they'll be removed from your homepage. Easy peasy. So by default, you should have a couple of fields here. You can also add to these fields, but just to give you an example, these fields are what's called additive. So that means whatever's in this box and whatever's in this box and whatever's in this box and whatever's in this box. So if I put a min baths of 4 and a min beds of 5, and then I do a max price of 150K, need an extra couple of zeros there, and I search for that, there are going to be no listings that meet those criteria. That's better. Okay, so if I go back to featured listings here, there are not going to be many listings. I didn't save this. So 4 beds, for 4 baths, I mean 5 beds, max price 150,000. And say I search for that here for the preview down here. There are only 13 listings in all of Arkansas. I don't understand how this is possible. I feel like these are mislisted here, but there are not supposed to be any 4 bath, 5 bed houses for 150K or under 150K, but somehow there are. So say I put in 15K. Search that. Yeah, I feel like these are rentals that were put in here erroneously, so we can ignore those. So say you've got 4 baths and 5 beds, but then you've got a maximum price of 15,000. There aren't going to be any listings that meet that criteria because it has to be 4 baths and 4 beds and maximum price of 15,000. So I want to be a little bit careful there because you could be nosing yourself out of actually showing any listings on your homepage. So most of the time what I recommend in this spot is decide what type of homes you want to work with. So say you want to show luxury homes on your homepage, or historic homes, or starter homes, or investment properties, or brand new construction, and use those filters to show that type of home on your homepage. So let's say we want to work with brand new construction, things that may just be listed on the MLS as a floor plan and are not actually constructed yet. So we're going to go down here to add search criteria, and we're going to scroll down and look for, I think there's a year built, minimum year built. So we can click add over here on the right. Now we've got a new box for minimum year built, and we're going to put in the year 2019. And if I search for that, there's only 459 listings in the MLS that were built this year. And we could even narrow that down further. Say you wanted to put in a specific zip code or city or subdivision or things like that, you could do that as well. And that'll show the freshest listings that have just been built on your homepage. Underneath that, we've got this option for default sort. This is choosing how you want those listings to be displayed in what order. So by default, what's showing first is the highest price. Under that, we've also got lowest price, so you could do maybe those investment properties or starter homes or flippers, things like that. Total images most is going to be the quote-unquote safest option, because if there are any listings on the MLS that don't have images yet, but also meet the other criteria, those wouldn't be showing on the homepage. Days on site newest is going to be the freshest listings, the hottest off the press. Days on site oldest is going to be those stale listings. beds and baths most, and then year built newest and oldest. So I'm going to do days on site newest here. And so it looks like the most recently listed home that was built this year is this Page Avenue here. So we'll see that on the home page once we scroll down to the bottom here and click Save. Now you'll notice I'm skipping this default results per page here. This is for a specific page type called a featured listings page that's covered in Placester 201. So you can get more information about that in our Placester 201 there. So we're going to scroll to the bottom and click Save here to apply that to the site. We're going to skip here where it's grayed out to open house info here. That's not part of your subscription through KW, so we don't have any information about that, nothing to cover. Underneath that, we've got theme selection here. Theme is where you're choosing the look and feel and colors of your site. This is the only customization options you have for your site. There's no click and drag, there's no resizing, there's no choosing fonts, there's no choosing colors outside of this page. You've got themes, and that's the only options that you have there. Now, if you've got an older Placester site before the last couple of months, you're going to have 9 options here. Actually, it may be, hold on. Yeah, it may be just 8 options. I'm not sure how Scott got the luxury one here. But if you have a newer site, unfortunately, Placester decided that they're going to move the rest of those themes to an upgrade package. So for KW agents, the only options you're going to have are the Madison and the Madison Metro here if you've got the newer Placester sites, which are very nice themes. You're welcome to use those. But then if you've got any of those other themes, you can use those as well. If you don't have these other themes, you would actually need to contact Placester directly for information about that upgrade package. We don't have any information about that. Underneath that, we've got where we can choose colors for our theme. So if I change the color here to this green or orange or whatever it is here, I like the orange today, it'll show you that preview up here in your theme. And depending on the theme that you've chosen, you may have different options here. Like here in the Sedona, you have the option for the gray, or excuse me, the blue and orange, the gray and red. You've got the gray and yellow, or gray and gold, I guess it's called. So depending on the theme, you may have different color options here. For the Madison theme, it is just going to be solid colors. For the Madison Metro, you're actually not going to be able to choose any colors. So I like the orange here. I'll select that for today. On the Madison theme, the plain Madison, not the Madison Metro, you have this option right here, which is whether you want a solid color header at the top or a white header with accents of whatever color you've chosen up here. So by default, it's going to be this solid color heading. It looks just like this. If you switch it to this white heading, it's going to change like this bar here and these social icons and these links over here to whatever color you've chosen here. And that actually doesn't get shown here in the preview. You'd have to go look at the live site to actually see that. So I'll show you that in a couple of minutes. Under that, for the Madison and the Madison Metro theme specifically, you have the option to change what this text right here says. If you leave this box blank, it's going to remain as the best place to find your home. So if you want to remove that text, theoretically, you should just be able to put in a space there and click Save, and it should remove that from the home page. But most often, you do want to have something there on the home page above the slideshow over your search box. So typically, this is what we put in here is like your local real estate resource, or for all your real estate needs, or, you know, serving the Pine Belt or whatever it is, whatever your service area is called, you can put that in there. And then once you've made any changes here to the theme, oh, by the way, one thing about choosing themes, if you do have any of those additional themes here, when you're picking a theme, you're choosing it based on the look and feel and the layout here. You're not choosing it based on this image here behind or above the search bar. You're in control of this image. You can change this image out for anything that you want it to be. And you can actually set up 5 different images for this here. What was I saying? So like this rocky seascape that we've got right here, this looks like up on the East Coast. Say you work in Florida or in California and this doesn't fit your service area. No big deal, you can change this picture out. But if you like the rest of the theme, you would just select that and we can change this picture later. So we're going to scroll down here and save that. So now what we'll want to do is I want to come up here to the top right and click on View Live Site so that I can actually go see what's going on with Scott's site, see those changes that I made there. There we go, we've got the site in place here. So I selected that white color header here, and you see all these accents of the orange that I selected as that color. And I'll put those in different places around the site because that header is white there. And if I had switched it to the other header section or other header style, it would be orange up here with white text and then other orange accents across the site. So coming down underneath theme selection, we've got slideshow here. This is where you can control those images that are on the home page. If you've got newer-ish, actually I think all the Placester sites have this option here for the Highland slideshow. This is a great option to use. It's fairly generic, but it's also really nice, and it has some really nice homes and landscapes here, and you're welcome to use that if you want to. You can also scroll down, and there are some other options for pre-made slideshows that Placester has provided for you. If you want to use one of these slideshows, you would just click on Select on that slideshow, then scroll down to the bottom and click Save, and that would be applied to your site. Now, you may have noticed as I was doing that after I clicked Select here, I had the option to change some things in this slideshow. You can edit the slideshows that Placester provides for you, and it'll create a new version of it with your edits, and it'll keep the original. So what you could do is you could change the name if you want to. You can upload a new image in place of whatever is in the slot. You can add a caption, or you can add a link to that image, or you can just remove the image. And we'll talk more about that once we get over to creating our own slideshow, which we can do from scratch. So let's go back here, go back into the slideshow section, and we're going to click our plus sign here to create a new slideshow. So up here, we're going to name this, we're going to call this class 619. And then under here, we have the option to upload up to 5 images. That's the maximum number of images you can have in the slideshow. You can have as few as 1 if you want to. You can have just 1 static image there behind your search bar, or you can have anywhere between 1 and 5 or up to 5. So we're going to upload a number of images here. And while I'm doing this, I want to talk about, where am I? Google Drive, slideshows. So while we're uploading these images, I want to talk about the dimensions of these images. You want these images to be very, very, very much wider than they are tall. Depending on the theme that you've chosen, and especially if you've got the Madison theme, there are certain dimensions that fit better in these slideshows than others. But the general rule of thumb is you want it to be about 4 or 5 times wider than it is tall. There's not really a pixel number that I can give you. Placester has them for them to fit quote unquote perfectly. But the rule of thumb is just about 4 or 5 times wider than they are tall. So say your image is, we'll call it 500 pixels wide. I got that backwards. Say your image is 500 pixels tall, you'd want it to be 1600, 2000, maybe 2200 pixels wide. And that is going to scale depending on how tall or how wide your image is. So now, if you want more help with that, more specifics about how to resize your images, there's actually a nice helpful article from Placester over here on the right that says, please visit this help article for image resizing tips. They have click-by-click instructions here for how to use a certain site to resize your images to fit in this section here. So after we've uploaded our images here, we have the option to add a caption. That's going to show in the bottom left of the image. It's always going to be in white text. It's always going to be in that spot, and it's always going to be that size. The only thing you can change about this text is A, whether there is any there, and B, what it says. You can't change anything else about it. No color, no font face, no positioning, no size, nothing. So this is a caption. Excuse me. Also on each image, what you could do is add a link. Each image has the ability to be linked to any other page on the entire internet. You can link to a page on your site. You could link to maybe your Facebook page. You could link to an Eventbrite page if you're hosting an event. You could link to the tourism bureau in your area, things like that. You can add links to on your images here. I'm going to add a link for Scott Leroy Marketing. And it does require the full HTTPS:// all that fun stuff when you're putting links on these images here. You can have a different caption and a different link for each image if you want to. I'm just going to have that one caption and that one link there. I'll click Save here to apply that to the site. And when I come back and refresh Scott's site, we've got our new slideshow here. You remember that first image, the hot air balloon over the cornfield? That looks really nice here. We've got our caption here on the bottom left. And then if I click on this image, it's going to open a new tab to Scott Leroy Marketing's homepage. There it is, nice and pretty. So now one thing to point out here is, see this image right here, these boots? If we come back over to our Placester interface, I'll show you what that image was supposed to look like. Scroll down here, there's some nice boats up here and there's a dock down here. It's a very pretty picture, but the problem is this image is too tall. It was not 4 or 5 times wider than it was tall. It was more like 1.5 times wider than it was tall, and that's not good for these sites because what it'll do is cut off the top and bottom of your image to fit whatever this height is here for the site. So you want to have images, like I said, 4 to 5 times wider than they are tall. Another one I want to point out to you here is this. This is a lighthouse, but you can barely tell that from this image because this image was uploaded in portrait orientation and vertical orientation, way taller than it is wide. And so it's cutting off, again, the top and bottom of that image. It's only showing between about here and here. So again, much, much wider than tall. Okay. I spend way too much time on that. Dropping down here to certifications, this is the easiest thing to do with the site. You just click on the certifications that apply to you and the blue border means it's selected. You can have up to 6 certifications shown on your site, and these are shown down at the very bottom. There's no way to change that positioning. If you're in the States, you're required to have equal housing opportunity on there. That's a legal requirement. And then also typically if you're in the States, you're probably a member of a board or association of realtors, so you're required to have the National Association of Realtors logo on your site. So that leaves 4 additional certifications you could select to show on your site. So I'm going to select those, and you can save that either at the top or at the bottom. And if I refresh Scott's site, scroll down to the very bottom, here's those certifications that have been added here. Okay. Social networks here, this is going to be links to your different social media profiles. You'll notice in these boxes here, I do not have http://facebook.com/. I only have the part after the slash. That's because the facebook.com/ is automatically added by the site. So when you're getting your social media links and putting them into these boxes, you only want the part after the first slash. Now, if you come down here to like LinkedIn, there's 1 slash here and there's another slash right here. You want to include that second slash and everything after that. It's everything after the first slash. If there are 2, 3, 4, whatever slashes after that, include them all. Everything after the first slash goes in these boxes here. Now, if you need help finding these links here, oh, by the way, I forgot to send you guys a link here. The Madison theme, the slideshow dimensions are not on that page that is pointed out there on the slideshow section. They have a special page just for the Madison theme, and I just sent you guys the link for that. And then if you need help finding your public social media profile links to add to your site, we do have a class that walks you through click by click how to find those as well. So that's what you would put in these boxes here. Once you've got those added, you can scroll down and click Save down at the bottom. And those will show, depending on your theme, in different places. On the Madison and Madison Metro, those show up here in the top left. On certain other themes, like I think it's the Fremont, there's a ribbon that drops down here next to the search box, and I think they show in that ribbon. And other themes are going to put them in other places. Coming down here to search form, if you're using the Madison or the Madison Metro theme, this is the only option you're going to have, which is the Omnibox with AutoSuggest. This is very similar to like this kw.com homepage or Zillow or Realtor.com, where you just type in what you're looking for. 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,500 square feet in such and such neighborhood. So you can type that whole thing out in one box there, and it'll automatically extrapolate that out to what are they called? Tags that it searches for through that IDX connection. So if you have the Madison or the Madison Metro theme, there's really nothing to do in this section. It's automatically going to have that Omnibox there. But instead, say you have one of those older Placester sites and you come and change to a different theme like Plymouth here. I'll save that down here. There we go. Now when we come to search form here, we're going to have several other options here. We have options that include drop-down boxes. And all we're selecting in this first section is which drop-down do we want to be first, price, city, zip, or neighborhood. Price is most common, that's why it's at the top of the list here. Now if you're using a different theme, you do also have the ability to use the Omnibox if you feel like it. That's not restricted to the Madison and Madison Metro. But if you want to use one of these others, you do have to change away from the Madison or Madison Metro. We'll scroll to the bottom and click Next. Now we're choosing how many additional drop-downs do we want people to have when they get over to the listing search page versus the home page. I'm going to select all of these additional drop-down boxes here, but it's up to you how many things you want to add. If you want to add any, you can just keep the same drop-downs that were there from the home page. I'll click Save here. Come back to Scott's site and refresh our home page. So now we've got our Plymouth theme in place. Down here is our search boxes with our drop downs. We'll do a minimum price of $150,000. Select that. Max price of $850,000, and we'll search that. So there are roughly 6,000 listings found between that price range. And here are those additional drop downs that we selected in that second step. Excuse me. Now, one thing to point out about the search form here, say you changed to a different theme so that you could have that drop-down based search box, and then you changed back to the Madison or the Madison Metro. When you save that and you come back to the home page of the site here, it's actually going to look a little funky. What it's trying to do here is fit in a drop-down based search box in place of the Omni box here. And these drop-downs actually don't work. All it's doing here is opening up that link that's applied to my image back here. So what you would need to do in this case is come back to the search form section and then re-click next and save on the Omni box to have that back on the home page to work properly. There we go. We've got our Omni box back here. Dropping down here to menu, this is one of the places where you can customize your site pretty well. By default, it should have, actually, you know what, this isn't supposed to be up there. Neither is this. Let me remove these real quick. So by default, it should have basically these options here. They may be in a different order, but what you can do here is actually click and drag to move things around. I can move the About page up there. I can move Home down here, move areas up there. You can click and drag and move them around to any order you want. Whatever is at the top of the list here is going to show leftmost on your site, and whatever is at the bottom is going to be rightmost on the site. So I'm going to move Home back up here and Listing Search right about there. And then what you can do after that is if you come down to this drop down at the bottom, it doesn't look like a drop down. It used to have an arrow that pointed down here. But in this menu here, you can actually add additional pages that exist on your site to the menu to link directly to those pages. So if you've got one of those newer Placester sites, you should have some additional options for what's my home worth that you can add. There should also be a first-time homebuyer resources that you can add. And then there's also your favorite listings that you can add. So what's my home worth is a seller lead capture page. It's going to send their information to you so you can generate a CMA. This is not going to automatically generate a CMA. You have to do it manually. Buyer resources is, I can't actually tell you because Scott doesn't really have it on his site. I just created that page as a dummy to show you what it would look like in the menu. So if you have that, go check it out on your site. And then your favorite listings is what's called a client profile page. This is going to be a page that lists all the properties that somebody who has created an account on your site has saved. So if somebody has logged into your site and saved some properties, if they click on this link here, it'll show them a list of all those saved properties. So this is your favorite listings as in the site visitors rather than your favorite listings as in the agent who owns the site. Now you can create a featured listings page and say my favorite listings, and it would show whatever listings meet your featured criteria that we covered a little while ago, but that's something we'll cover in a Placester 201, which you can refer back to. You can also, via this drop-down down here, add a custom URL. This is where you can link to any page across the entire internet. Usually what we recommend in this spot is adding a link to your KW app, your branded app that has your information and does lead capture for you. So what we'll do here is you can name this anything you want to. I typically call this free home search app. Gosh, I spelled search wrong. Or, gosh, something like search homes on the go, something like that. You can put whatever you want to in that label. That's what's actually going to show up here in the menu. Underneath that, it asks for a URL. This is where we're going to put in our app link, the one that goes http://app.kw.com/whatever your code is. So I'll walk you through getting to find that link there. We're going to need to come back to our MyKW homepage over in this other tab. And then from the homepage in our eEdge control panel next to My Marketing, we're going to click this plus sign here to open up this menu. In this menu, you'll click on Manage e-agency website. Now, don't get hung up on that website word. This site was actually retired about 3.5 years ago, and it no longer functions. The only reason this interface is still around is for this purpose right here, because the KW app is administered through that interface. So you're going to click on that Manage e-agency website. This is where I'm not going to be able to show you visually how to find your app, but I can walk you through it really, really easily. Once you're in the e-agency interface, over on the left, you're going to have section 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.0. You'll click on section 4.0 to drop that down and expand it, and then you'll click on section 4.5, mobile property search. On that page over on the right, if it's not already selected, select your market center name in that drop down, and then it'll show you your app code and your app link. You're going to highlight and copy the entire app link, the full http://app.kw.com/ whatever the rest of your code is. Then we'll come back over to our Placester interface here, and we'll paste that in, whatever your code is there. I'm actually going to remove this section here because it's going to give me an error page if I try to do that. But your app code is going to be unique to you. Everybody has their own app code. It begins with KW and then 5 other characters, I think it is, that are either numbers or letters. And you can't change those because then it would go to a different agent. You want it to go to your page. Under that, we've got the option for tooltip. I'll add a tooltip just to show you what that is, but that is optional. You don't have to have anything there. Now, we're not going to click add because that would be adding an additional custom URL button to the menu. Instead, we want to come down and click save to apply that to the site. So we're going to come back to Scott's site and refresh the home page. So now we've got those new menu items on our site here. We've got what's my home worth, buyer resources, your favorite listings, and search homes on the go. If I hover my mouse over this search homes on the go, you'll notice that little box that drops down under my cursor that says this is a tooltip. That's a tooltip, just to show you what that looks like. Totally optional. If you don't have a tooltip in there, the tooltip is going to be whatever the name of the menu item is. So it's up to you whether you want to have one in there or not. One last thing to cover about the menu, as you're clicking and dragging things around, you can actually nest things under other items. So this listing search here, what we can do is I can drag, say, your favorite listings here. Let me move this up here just a little bit. I can drag your favorite listings on top of listing search. You see how the dotted line is around the existing listing search there. And when I let go of my mouse button, your favorite listings is now indented just a little bit, under listing search. That means this is now a drop-down menu. Listing search is its own item that people can click on, but if they hover over it, you'll see your favorite listings underneath that. So we'll click save here to apply that and refresh Scott's site. Okay, so the drop down there. So if I hover over listing search now, we've got your favorite listings underneath that. Coming back to our Placester interface, we've got site info. This is going to take a good bit of time as we move forward. Starting at the top, we've got site title. This shows in a couple of places on the site. One is, actually, never mind, it only shows in one place on the site. So this site title is going to show fairly big up near the top of the site here with the, come back here, the site subtitle underneath that. So site title will be kind of big up here, site subtitle will be underneath it. So this site title is, there does have to be something in this box. You can uncheck this box if you don't want to show whatever's in this box on the home page, but there does have to be something in this box. So typically what we recommend is putting your name or maybe your team's name in this box. So Scott Leroy Marketing, something like that. Underneath that tagline, the site subtitle is optional. You don't have to have anything in this box if you don't want to. What we do is typically we put in your local real estate resource, or for all your real estate leads, things like that there. You can put in your catchphrase, slogan, tagline, motto, mantra, whatever you call it, can go in that box there. Underneath that, we've got a spot here to upload a logo. By default, it's going to have the plain KW logo here, the regular one. And you're welcome to leave that like it is, but a lot of market centers or a lot of MLS boards require showing your actual particular individual market center's logo here. So instead, you would want to upload the file for that. And I say upload the file because if you go to select a KW logo, this is only going to show 52 different logos here, and half of those are the same logo just with a different color scheme. So the vast majority of market centers are not represented here. So instead you need to upload your own version of your market center logo. And if you need help finding that logo, we do have a class of click-by-click instructions showing how to find that as well. And I just sent you guys that link in the chat window. Underneath that, or actually let me go ahead and upload the plain KW logo here. KW logo, fun stuff. Underneath that, we've got a couple of checkboxes here for display name and tagline and display logo. By default, display name and tagline is going to be off, so it'll be blank up here near the top left of your site. Normally, we recommend just go ahead and turn this on. And then by default, the display logo is on, and we recommend leaving that on as well. Underneath that, we've got a spot for upload favicon. A favicon shows up here in the browser tab. It's really hard to see here on the screen because I've got a dark background. But there's a stylized geometric P here for Placester's favicon. More obviously, over here on the left, I've got this red square with the KW logo in there. That's the KW favicon. And we actually have this favicon that I'm going to use on the site here, and I can send you guys the link for that as well. Send that to you here. You can download that and put that on your site. Now this favicon is always going to show in this spot at this size. So this is not the place to put your picture because it's going to be shrunk down to 16 pixels by 16 pixels. So nobody's going to be able to tell who it is in that picture. They may be able to tell it's a person, but not who it is. So instead we recommend go ahead and use this KW favicon. If you've got a logo, this may be a good spot to do that. To add that, depending on whether your logo is fairly simple. If your logo is a simple, maybe a house shape or maybe a key icon or something like that, maybe a good idea to use that here in the favicon. But if your logo is maybe a thin script of your name or your team name or whatever, probably not a good idea to do that here because it's going to be so tiny as to be unreadable. Underneath that, this information is fairly self-explanatory. This is your name. Your title, certain states, specifically New York, actually just one state, requires your title that's on your license to be displayed here. So if you're in New York, you have to put in your real estate salesperson or associate real estate broker with either one of those titles, whichever one applies to you in this box. Underneath that, we've got email, and that would be your email address. Oops. Under that, you put in your phone number. Gosh. And then under here for site header and this display license number, this is specifically for California and New York. If you're an agent in California or New York, you do have to check this box. This is a legal requirement from the Department of Real Estate. And then we would also want to hold the Control or Command key on your keyboard and click on My Profile here so you can go add your license number, your DRE number, to this section to show that on your site, and which may take a minute to load. There we go. We're going to click Edit near the top here. You want to add your DRE number down here in license display. You don't need to add NRDS ID, just your license number, your DRE number. And then it also requires you for some reason to put your phone number in there. If this is blank, it won't let you save it. So you have to have your phone number in there and your license number. None of the other information on this page is public. Nobody's going to see this. No clients are seeing this. Don't worry about this. You won't be able to edit it anyway. This is not public. Only this license number is. So you have to add that in there, add your phone number, save profile, and now when we save this page, that'll show that DRE number on the home page. Under that, you've got your picture. So we're going to upload this nice picture of Scott that I've got right here. Under that, we've got office name. Again, if you're in New York, lots of requirements for New York on these sites. If you're in New York, you have to use your actual doing business as name from your market center. So you would get that from your market center leadership. Like one in New York is Keller, Williams, Southern Tier, and Finger Lakes. That's the official name that's registered with the Department of Real Estate, and that has to be displayed on the site legally according to the New York Department of Real Estate. If you're in any other state, it doesn't matter so much. You can just put in KW Realty, but if you're in New York, it has to be the actual name. Under that, this is another New York requirement. You have to have the link to There we go. Link to your Market Center's website. Can't just link back to your website, can't link to your Facebook. It has to be your Market Center's website. If any of these things is missing, that's a $1,000 fine if you're in New York. If you're in any other state, doesn't matter. In New York, you have to have all of these things. Under that, for office phone, you can put in that phone number here. Sorry about that. Put in that phone number here. Office email. Now for this spot right here, give me just a second. For this spot right here, when we're setting sites up for agents, typically we use the same email address that's in this spot down in this spot, but my own personal opinion is you want to go ahead and use your actual Market Center's contact information in this spot so that your Market Center doesn't lose the lead and you don't lose the profit share. So I personally am recommending go ahead and use your Market Center's phone number and email address here. Under that, your Market Center's physical address. Gosh. There's only 5 characters in a zip code. And then under that, this is another New York thing. Have to check the box for display office name. Have to check the box for display office address. And these are going to show near the top right of your site. If you're outside of New York, you don't have to check these boxes. And I would recommend not checking these boxes because it actually makes it kind of uglier. If you're in New York, sorry, you're kind of out of luck. That's just what the DRE requires. Underneath that, we've got footer links. So this one is fairly specific to like, Texas, where you've got the Texas Real Estate Commission requires to have a couple of links to your consumer protection notice and your information about brokerage services. Those links can be put right here. So consumer protection notice and IABS. I'm just going to abbreviate that there. Now, if you're in Texas and you want to learn how to put those links in there the correct way, I've got a link to a class that shows you specifically how to do that. Easy peasy. And then we'll scroll down to the bottom here. We've got our SEO section. Meta title shows in 2 places. One is up here in the browser tab. See where it says site title? Whatever you put in this box is going to replace what it says up there in the browser tab. It's also going to show when you show up in search engine results as the blue link that actually is going to link to your site. So whatever you put in this box where are we? Gosh. Whatever we put in the meta title box here is what's eventually going to show here on the search engine. Now, one thing to point out about this meta title is that changing this will not instantaneously change it on the search engine. There's a delay of 3-ish, maybe 4-ish weeks between when you make the change on your site to when it's actually changed on the search engine result. And so there are no overnight fixes, no overnight changes when it comes to search engine optimization for your site. If anybody promises something overnight, take that with a very large grain of salt. So for this meta title, you've got a soft limit of roughly 55 characters before what's called truncation happens. And what happens here is, say this right here, these 3 dots here, that's the truncation point. So after about 55 characters, the search engine result is going to turn it into a ... whatever's in that title there. So you want the most important, most specific information to be up front. So obviously, your name for sure. Excuse me. A lot of agents like to put in their phone number in this spot so people can call them without having to click through to their site. It's up to you whether you want to do that. You want to put in the purpose of your site, what people are going to be able to do on your site when they get there. So search homes for sale in Orlando, Florida. And then you can get less specific from there. You can say something about maybe your local real estate resource, or just throw in your KW office name. And now a good rule of thumb here for that 55 character limit is roughly just about the end of this box here. If you start seeing things going off the screen here and you have to scroll over to see them, that's roughly where the search engines are going to start truncating it. So if it's before the edge of the box here, more than likely that information is going to show in the search engine result. If it's after the edge of the box, that information more than likely will not show. Under that, for meta description, this is supposed to be a helpful, human-readable description of what people are going to find on your site before they actually click through that search engine result link, because this is actually going to show as this gray text right here on the search engine results. So this is not the place to do comma, 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 comma tags. Tags fell out of fashion almost a dozen years ago. Almost no one uses them anymore, or if they do, they're in different places. This is not the spot for that. This is instead supposed to be helpful, human-readable text. So something like Scott Leroy is your local resource to buy, sell, or in real estate in Winter Park, Haven, and the entire Orlando metro area. There we go. So we do have some tags in here. Scott Leroy is a tag, buy is a tag, sell is a tag, invest is a tag, real estate is a tag, Winter Park is a tag, Winter Haven is a tag, Orlando metro area is a tag. So there are tags in here, but this is natural language. And in this box here, you've got about 3 times as much space before it truncates it into that ... You've got roughly 155 characters rather than just 55 characters like in the meta title. So I'll save all this information at once. And when I come back and view Scott's live site, while I'm waiting for that to load, definitely check out our search engine optimization challenge on our site. That's got some specific instructions, some click-by-clicks, some walkthroughs for how to improve your site to help your site do better on search engine rankings. Okay, so here's all this information we changed on Scott's site. We've got that new meta title starting at the top, showing in the browser tab, got that new favicon up here, got the new logo and the title and subtitle here, got that contact information over on the right. Now, one thing I want to point out specifically is we get a lot of questions about this email me link. What this does is when someone clicks on it, it's going to open up the default email program on their computer. If no default email program is dictated in their settings, nothing is going to happen. And that may happen if you click this link on your computer. Nothing to freak out about, also nothing to do about it, because there's no way to change that. It will only ever say email me, and it will only ever be this kind of link that opens the default mail program. So there's nothing you can do about it. On your computer, it may not do anything. On my computer, it's going to open Gmail. On somebody else's computer, it may open Outlook. On another person's computer, it may open Mac Mail. On another person's computer, it may open Hotmail. It's going to be different for each and every single individual computer, and there's nothing you can do about it. This is not something that you can control. If you don't want this email me link here, you would need to remove your email from that section in site info here. Right here, you need to remove your email from this box to remove that email me link there. For the phone number here, someone taps on this on their phone, it'll start a call to you. Under that, we've got the name of the Market Center here, and that link to the Market Center website is applied to that name. Got the physical address of the Market Center there. Got my DRE number here from that My Profile section. And if we scroll down to the very bottom, here is that contact information all over again. Okay. Coming down to language, we can skip this because there are only 3 options, no point. You guys can spend some more time looking at that, but it's pointless. Under that, we've got auto publish here. This is another one that we're going to have to skip because it's not part of your subscription that KW International is paying for. Under that, we've got lead capture. This is potentially the most important thing that I'm going to cover in this site, and I'm sorry that I've lost 6 viewers throughout the class, or excuse me, cover in this class. This is how your site is going to collect leads for you, and that's the point of the site. Remember, provide lead capture, or excuse me, provide listing search, and do lead capture for the agent. So this is that second point of the site. By default, what's going to be selected is passively capture leads, and that means that people are not going to be required to fill out any kind of contact form if they don't want to. If they want to, they can go register for an account, they can fill out a contact form, you can get their lead information that way, but nobody's forcing them to. The other option here is aggressively capture leads, which means anybody visiting your site will be forced to fill out a lead capture form before they view the details on any particular listing. With this one, they can view as many listings as they want, but with this one, they have to fill out a contact form before they view any listings. They can see anything else on your site, but listings, they have to fill out the contact form. Neither of these is perfect, and there actually is an upgrade package from Placester that provides some more control over this, where you can say after X number of listings, what am I trying to say there? After X number of listings, then force them to fill out a contact form. But by default, these are your only two options here, and you can select either one of those. Under that, we've got what's called lead forwarding. These are the email addresses that are going to be notified when someone registers on your site or fills out a contact form or fills out a lead capture form. So of course you want to put in your regular email here. And then you want to put in a comma, and it absolutely has to be only a comma. It can't be a period, can't be a semicolon, can't be a colon, can't be enter, can't be a line break, can't be anything else. Has to be a comma. Then you can put in an additional email address, then a comma, then another email, then a comma, then another email. And the second email that we want to put in here is so that leads from here will automatically go into your eEdge database. And then once KW International finally fixes the sync between eEdge and Command, leads from your site will automatically be going into Command after they've gone into your eEdge database. So we definitely want to set this up. So from our MyKW homepage here in the eEdge control panel, we're going to click on View Contacts here just to get into our eEdge system. Once we're in eEdge, up at the top right, we'll click on Account, then we'll click on My Account, and then on this page we want to copy the eEdge email, the one that ends in @kwrealty.com, and it has to have that @ symbol in order to be an email address. It can't be this one that has the dot. It has to be the one that ends in @kwrealty.com. Now don't get confused by this email address here. This is the only thing you're going to use this for basically. So copy this, and we're going to come over and paste it into our Placester lead capture box here. So now what happens is when someone submits a contact form or creates an account on Scott's website, he's going to be notified via email, and that lead is automatically going to be put into his eEdge database. And then whenever KW International fixes the connection between eEdge and Command, that lead will automatically go over to Command as well. And then from here, you can put in additional emails after commas as well. You can put in maybe your lead coordinator's email or your listing specialist's email or your admin's email, whatever. You can do several emails in here. Each one has to be separated by a comma. And then we'll click Save down here at the bottom to apply that those settings there. The last thing we'll cover here in Placester 101 is the one that everybody's excited about. What is my website address? This is it. This is custom domain, and this right here is your website address. If you're in the US, your website address is going to end in .kw.com. If you're in Canada, it's going to end in .kellerwilliamsrealty.ca. Those are your only options there. It has to end in one of those things there unless you go and purchase a custom domain. So say you went to like GoDaddy or Namecheap or something like that, and you purchased your own domain you wanted to use with the site, definitely possible to do. They have step-by-step help articles showing how to do that. We also have a complimentary service that your market center is paying for where we can do that for you. And I just sent you guys the link to where you can request that on our website. If you don't have a custom domain that you want to use, you can actually change this part right here, this first part before the dot. You can change this by clicking Edit over on the right. So you can replace this with, say, Scott Leroy, and you can check availability, and if it's available, it'll turn green, and you can come down here and click Save, and that would be the new site address for your site. One big caution about this is if you change your site address, visitors to the previous site address will not automatically be forwarded to the new site address. They would actually be forwarded to the main kw.com website, not your site. So you want to be very careful if you're changing your address if you've already printed that previous address on any marketing materials, say your business cards or whatever. So if you change the address, visitors to the old address won't be forwarded to the new address. Now, if you type in something that's already taken, and then click check availability, it'll turn red and say no, it's not available. Here's a couple of options based on your name that you can use instead, and you can select one of those and then click save down at the bottom. I'm not going to change this here because we want to keep Scott Leroy Marketing here, but that's it for custom domain. All right, if you do have additional questions, feel free to email them over to us. That'll be it for our Placester 101 class today. Everybody have a great day.